It's
Yeah.
supposed to be busy.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
We are live. Dawn, Shaman, and Kiva, y'all can take it home.
There we go. I want to welcome everyone to Voters East of the Industrial Canal Forum for District E. So we have Judge Kiva Landrum who will ask the questions of the candidates. So Kiva, I'm going to turn everything over to you. Thank you.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Louisiana State Senate District 3 Candidate Forum. As we all know, the Senate plays a critical role in setting statewide policy, allocating public investment, and shaping the long-term future of the region. Candidates, each of you will receive equal time to answer the questions, and the questions and the time limits will be strictly enforced. So we're going to start this evening with the introductions. I'm going to ask each of you to state your name, confirm that you are running for State Senate District 3, and then I want you to answer these three questions. And if I need to repeat the questions, please just ask me to do so, but I want to let you know what they are up front. What do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why? What do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within this district? And what have you done in or for this district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents, work for which you were not paid to do? And so each candidate will receive 90 seconds to answer these questions and give your introduction. And we'll start in alphabetical order, Mr. Bartholomew.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thanks to everyone on this panel. My name is Sidney Bartholomew. I am running for State Senate District 3. The first question was, I'm sorry.
That's okay. What do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that is district-wide, let's put it that way, because obviously we know there's a big district and there are pockets of neighborhoods that all have their own challenges. This thing spans from New Orleans East down to Gentilly, then over to the French Quarter, and then all the way down to St. Bernard Violet in St. Bernard Parish. So, it's understandable that folks would have different challenges. I think the one challenge that is district wide, not the one, but one of the biggest challenges district wide is insurance pricing and affordability and how that impacts affordability. Our insurance prices are going up. Mine as a small business owner and mine as a homeowner have increased over the last few years, and it causes a strain. It's caused a strain on the business because then we have to pass that expense on to customers. It's caused a strain as a homeowner because we're uncertain about what our future is like as a homeowner and which carrier is going to have us, and if we get passed on to another carrier, and what that cost is going to look like. So we need more stability in terms of affordability and in terms of insurance prices. I intend to sit down with the commissioner and force that we have some additional transparency that we don't currently have, and that we're able to look at and control and have oversight over when rate increases happen, and that they're not just happening at the whim of the insurance company because it's a for-profit business. They're looking to make money. We don't know if prices are going up because costs are going up or risk is going up. But we just know that the prices are going up. So I think that's why the resiliency programs exist, the fortified roof program, et cetera. Those are put in place so that we can kind of have some sort of controls over that industry. So I would say that is probably the biggest district wide. And your number two question.
What do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within the district?
Yeah, I think that obviously there's 39 senators, 38 of which don't live in this district. So I don't know that it's the easiest thing to misunderstand the needs. The needs of families in St. Bernard Parish might be different than the needs of families in the Ninth Ward, might be different from the needs of families in Gentilly. But I don't think that's a really good excuse to not put forth an effort to make sure that everyone in the state is adequately protected and adequately cared for and resourced in terms of what those needs are. So again, I don't think it's a good excuse. I think it's the job of the Senate. It would be my job if elected to ensure that all members on the Senate floor have an understanding of what we need and what our challenges are and how we can solve problems through resources brought down by the state. So that's the job of the senator. And your last question
is, what have you done in or for this district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents, work for which you were not paid?
Yeah, I think there was a very dangerous business that tried to operate in Gentilly. Really, it was kind of that industrial corridor behind Pontchartrain Park where the canal is. And my house is in close proximity of that. However, there are houses closer than mine. And they wanted to do kind of a construction debris and waste transfer station. And we, as a neighborhood, decided that we didn't want that. We thought it brought risk of airborne contaminants that could potentially get people sick. And the way that facility operated, there weren't any protections over that. And so we fought it. And that particular case wound up going before city planning and then again before the city council. And ultimately, we were able to defeat that business from coming in and creating a harmful environment for the community. And again, I think for us, that fought this thing, it wasn't just about our own homes. It was about the communities that were even closer to the canal, the Desire community, and et cetera, that were closer to that, where that facility would be placed and would be at greater danger than us. And that was for us very important to fight.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, you're up next. If you will please state your name and confirm that you are running for Senate State District 3. And then I will ask you those 3 questions.
John Johnson, a candidate for District 3.
And the first question is, what do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why?
Well, first of all, a very special thank you to the organization and the members who have decided to have this discussion on tonight with us. I think the biggest problem that is facing our district, at least a major portion of the district, is just the misconception and the notion that some people have of some parts of the district that they don't really truly understand and don't really know. And I'm primarily talking about the Lower Ninth Ward in Eastern New Orleans, and sometimes the manner in which these communities are highlighted whenever they have discussion on the news about them. But generally speaking, the biggest problem, quite frankly, are the problems that we're facing throughout the city and throughout the metropolitan area, New Orleans and St. Bernard. The insurance issue is definitely a problem. It's a major problem. Taxes, I think property taxes, the cost of water for the people, specifically the residents of the city of New Orleans. It's not as big of a problem in St. Bernard as it is in Orleans Parish. We still have our issues with crime, and the perception of crime is, I think, worse in parts of the district, the Ninth Ward and New Orleans East and places like that, than it really and truly is. But the image and the idea of making sure that people fully understand and appreciate what we have in the district to offer, I think is our biggest challenge as residents of the district, and specifically residents of New Orleans East and the Lower Ninth.
Thank you. And your second question is, what do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within this district?
The value that and the significant contribution that the district and the residents of this district play in the state and certainly in the city. We have, quite frankly, one of the most educated and one of the most sophisticated and high income people who live in the district in New Orleans East, the Gain, and specifically the different neighborhoods and subdivisions that we have throughout New Orleans East. If you were to look at some of those subdivisions, I think people would be surprised. People who don't know the community, people who don't know the area, would be surprised to see the gated communities and the nice houses and lake communities that we have throughout the district. I think in the area of St. Bernard, also, I think people who don't visit St. Bernard, people who don't spend a lot of time in St. Bernard, don't know the significant role that St. Bernard plays in the overall economy, with 2 oil refineries and the sugar refinery and the significant industrial complex that St. Bernard has within the parish. In the Gentilly area, you've got a number of institutions, SUNO, Dillard, UNO are major institutions of higher learning that are invaluable to those communities. And I just think that we need to be promoting those assets that we have throughout the district to a greater extent than we're doing.
And finally, what have you done in and for this district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents and specifically work for which you were not paid to do?
I served on the City Planning Commission. I just I got off the City Planning Commission in order to run for the State Senate. And serving on the City Planning Commission certainly gave me an opportunity to do an awful lot of work on a citywide basis, but certainly in the district.
Thanks.
In the Gentilly area, New Orleans East area. Am I still alive?
No, well, right, your time has run.
Oh.
Thank you. And Mr. Laga, if you will please introduce yourself and then answer the first question, which is, what do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why?
Hi, I'm Chad Loga, and I am running for State Senate District 3. The biggest problem district-wide, no matter where you go from throughout the district, is insurance, just like they've said. I believe that as a state, we need to do things to help people where we lower their insurance costs. I think one thing we could do is fortified roof program. We can fully fund that program. And we need to make sure we don't mandate it on residents, where we mandate a fortified roof, where the state needs to help people fortify their roof. So if somebody has $10,000 to fix their roof, we can't have the state saying, you must fortify it, because then it becomes a $25,000 roof. The state has to help them. Another thing we could do to lower insurance costs is permanently remove the 10% premium on citizens insurance, the insurance of last resort. Insurance companies take your money and they have an unfair advantage, and they take your money and they'll keep your premiums for a couple of years and then throw you to citizens knowing that you got to pay 10% more. I think we need to permanently remove that. I think another thing that will reduce insurance costs throughout the district is we need to get serious about restoring our coast again. We need to put more land between the base of our levees and the Gulf of Mexico, and let our levees perform during storms the way they were designed to perform.
And then if you could answer the question of, what do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within the district?
I think the biggest misperception is that we've recovered from Katrina. You could drive throughout this district, whether it's St. Bernard, the Ninth Ward, New Orleans East, there's still big chunks of this area that hasn't recovered yet. I mean, look in the East, we need to get economic development out there. The Ninth Ward as well. I see everybody that comes to St. Bernard Parish to shop. There's no places to shop. I think that's the biggest misconception, is that we're recovered, and I don't think we really are recovered. And I want to help fix that misconception.
And finally, what have you done in and for the district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents, work for which you were not paid to do?
Well, when I was in Baton Rouge, my sister has MS, and I worked for the MS Society to pass a bill that I wasn't paid for. That it was a simple bill that said the insurance companies couldn't increase the cost of your prescriptions within a plan year. You know, people sign contracts from year to year for their prescriptions, and all it did was remove that provision. But the insurance companies fought tooth and nail to keep that in there. So I would say that was my biggest accomplishment, was lowering prescription costs for everybody in the state of Louisiana, not just this district, but throughout the whole state.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, if you would please state your name and confirm that you are running for State Senate District 3, and then answer the following questions. The first one being, what do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why? What do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within the district? And what have you done in and for the district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents, work for which you were not paid? I can repeat the questions, but you have 90 seconds to answer.
Thank you so much. And Judge Landrum, it's great to see you. My apologies on my tardiness. We are having a fundraiser tonight, and I try to get over as quickly as possible. But to jump into it, my name is Ken Barnes. That's KENNBARNES. And I am running for Louisiana Senate District 3.
And what do you believe is the single biggest challenge facing District 3 and why?
Well, the single biggest challenge facing Senate District 3 is our economy. So many people that live within the district, from New Orleans East to St. Bernard to the Marigny and the Bywater, are facing the issues of this economy. And what we have to do is make sure we have an economy that people can thrive in and that they can win in. And my plan as your senator is to make sure that we do those things.
And what do you think state leaders often misunderstand about communities within this district?
Well, I think the issue that most leaders see or believe and they perceive is that each area is a monolith. I think that a lot of people hear New Orleans East and they consider it to be one big area that's a conglomerate, but it's not. And so when issues occur in one part of the East, they try to bring it and say it's all of these, which the East is not a problem. The East is the opportunity for thriving. That's just one example. I think that leaders need to understand that there's nuance and there's differences within our communities within, and to find those differences and assist those people in those differences by making sure we have a thriving economy in the East, that we're dealing with the homelessness concerns in the French Quarter, that we're discussing the terminals and the ports inside of the Lower Nine and Violet, but addressing each issue individually instead of brushing with a broad stroke.
And then finally, what have you done in and for the district that has created a long-lasting benefit for residents, work for which you are not paid?
Well, if you talk to my wife, I'm not paid enough for any of the work I do. I spent much of my time in public service, in public opportunities, such as being a public defender, being special counsel to Louisiana Supreme Court, and working as a city attorney. But what I've done for no money is I've cleaned the storm drains within my neighborhood. I've also registered and spoken to students at schools across New Orleans. I have created a food bank in the Gentilly Pontchartrain Park neighborhood, as well as hosted family dinners at that same church in that neighborhood. I've taught many different clergy across our community about how to address and deal with ICE and immigration when they come to their homes. Additionally, I have been a mentor to many of the students at schools across New Orleans. And finally, I serve as a volunteer wrestling coach at Xavier. Those are what I've done without money.
Thank you. All right, and so we're going to shift a little bit and get into some of the substantive questions. This next question is about long-term vision and leadership. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer this question. And the question is, what is your long-term vision for State Senate District 3 over the next 5 to 10 years? And we'll start with Mr. Laga. You're on mute.
My long-term vision would be for economic development. I want to see, as a state, I think we need to invest more into apprenticeship programs, VOTEC programs, and trade schools, because those are high-paying jobs. Everybody's not college material, and I believe we need to push more state funding towards those type of programs. In turn, that will employ a lot of our residents, and we need high-tech jobs as well. I think out in the East, we have Boeing out there, but nothing's growing out of it. We need to have some kind of economic development, or create like a New Orleans East economic development, just like they have the downtown development district. Create a district where we could bring business in, attract business, and put our people to work.
Thank you. And Mr. Barnes, the question is now yours. What is your long-term vision for the Senate district over the next 5 to 10 years? You're on mute.
Thank you. Over the next 5 to 10 years, I see the district as one of opportunity. We have ports that are being looked at, as well as we have opportunity in the East. Previously, in previous conversations and forums that I've been a part of, I've spoken about wanting to have an economic district in the East, as well as creating a small business navigator to assist businesses in starting their business in the East, Gentilly, and the rest of Louisiana Senate District 3. And the importance of that is that I believe that the people and the citizens of Senate District 3 deserve to have a place where they can go out to eat, where they can hang out with their friends, and where they can enjoy their life without feeling like they have to leave the district to get those things. And we can do that with the people that we already have in New Orleans. We have so many people with great ideas already. We just need a system bringing those ideas from a kitchen napkin to reality. And I see the district being one that will thrive and will be the shining jewel of New Orleans once we are able to accomplish that. And we'll be able to do that under my tenure.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Johnson, the question is yours.
Well,
what is your, I'm sorry.
Well, we have an economic development district in New Orleans East. We have the Plaza Economic Development District, which is something that I passed when I was in the legislature back in 2003. Problem is that nothing has been done with it. And quite frankly, that was one of the incentives and one of the reasons why I decided to run in this race. The Lake Forest Plaza Mall should be redeveloped. We should have retail in New Orleans East. That is something that is going to be a priority of mine. I was working on it as a member of the City Planning Commission. I'm going to make it a priority. We should have at least no less than a TJ Maxx or Marshall's or something like that in New Orleans East. It's a major community. We should have that. In the Lower Ninth Ward, I think there are opportunities for cultural kinds of activities in the Lower Ninth Ward and in St. Bernard. I think we can bring more tourism into New Orleans East and more tourism into St. Bernard Parish also. In the Gentilly 7th Ward area, we need to continue to enhance our universities.
Thank you. And Mr. Bartholomew, the question is now yours.
Yeah, I think, first of all, just kind of talk district-wide. I think we will have done what we talk about on my platform, which is tackle affordability issues through insurance, make sure that we've resourced the schools the way we want to see them done. I think some really key infrastructure improvements can be done in that time span. There are bridges that provide access to the Ninth Ward that need repair and need improvement. I think we could tackle that. I think in New Orleans East, from an infrastructure standpoint, we can deal with the interstate. We can deal with the lights on the interstate. We can deal with the Department of Transportation, who's responsible for that, who is neglecting that asset, that state asset in New Orleans East. And then also, lastly, I would say, everyone recognizes that New Orleans East has been kind of left behind. It's 20 years in the making, and there is not significant development done out in that community. And I think over a 5-year span, I would impact that through creating pathways for investors. Responsible and accountable development out in New Orleans East is something that I would work through in the state through tax incentives and pathways to create that environment.
Thank you. All right, now candidates, let's move a little bit and talk about budget and statewide priorities. You'll each have 75 seconds to answer this question. With limited state resources, how do you prioritize funding amongst education, healthcare, infrastructure, and public safety? And what principles guide your decisions? And we'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Well, quite honestly, the state's in pretty decent shape. During this current fiscal year, the state is probably going to have a pretty good surplus that could reach as much as $300 million. And I think with that money, we should spend a significant portion of the money on the fortified roof program in order to bring the insurance premiums down. Right now, we're only spending maybe $23 million a year on that program. I think we should spend maybe $150 million in order to really work on bringing the premiums down for insurance. I think as far as training is concerned, technical training, we need to invest more in technical training throughout the state, specifically in areas like New Orleans East and the Lower Ninth Ward. One of the things that I would be in favor of is bringing an additional training facility, a technical training facility in the New Orleans East area. Even though we've got Nunez and we've got Delgado in the Desire area, we need it in New Orleans East also. That's an area, technical training, that I would be focusing on. And I would also like to make sure we start bringing more technical training like carpentry, electricity, and plumbing, those areas into the public schools so that high school students are able to get that training in high school. Once they finish high school, go into an advanced training program at a technical school like the one that I'm proposing to be done in New Orleans.
Thank you. And now the same question for Mr. Bartholomew.
Do you mind naming the categories again?
Sure. Amongst education, healthcare, infrastructure, and public safety, and what principles guide your decision in making that priority?
Yeah, I would say public safety would be first. I think healthcare would be second. I think infrastructure. Public safety to me is going to be top of the list because folks need to feel safe. I think crime is down in many parts of the city, but I think there's some extra effort that can be made there, not necessarily on the policing side, but also we can do things from a state level, like light up neighborhoods, and that kind of ties into the infrastructure as well. Provide resources for cameras, and do things that support law enforcement so that folks feel safe in their community. And I don't mean putting more police on the ground necessarily. I think we as a state senators, as a state senator, can support what law enforcement already does through those means. Healthcare is an issue. Healthcare also taps into the affordability issue, making sure that healthcare is affordable and accessible to all in the community is really going to be if we don't have the dignity to have healthcare. I think it's a human right, and I would focus on that. Infrastructure, I kind of named the bridges, the interstate, those issues. That's a huge priority. New Orleans East is not benefiting from the economy that the other parts of the city are because people don't get off of that interstate unless they're going there specifically.
Thank you. And your time is up. And so, Mr. Barnes, the question is now yours. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I would say number one would be Mr. Barnes.
Well, it was Mr. Barnes, but go ahead, Mr. Lager. No, go ahead. No, it's fine. You're on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ken. I would say first on the list would be healthcare. We all know our rural hospitals have been getting hammered over the last couple of years. I would invest some of that money into the hospital system. Second would be education. Like I said before, we need to invest in apprenticeship programs, VOTEX, trade schools, to where we have and that leads into healthcare too. With a healthy workforce, that's good for everybody. People could go to work if we give them education. Then I would say on the crime side, I would say we need to take care of mental health issues. That's part of our crime. And then on infrastructure, we all know we need to invest more as a state in our infrastructure. We have crumbling roads. We always get D's and F's on every engineer's report that ever comes out. So we need to invest more in that. So I would say healthcare, education, crime and safety, and infrastructure.
Thank you. And Mr. Barnes,
you.
the question is yours.
Thank you so much. I think this is a difficult list to approach, and it's not difficult because we don't want to fix all of it. It's because all of them need to be addressed. But I would start with education and healthcare, then going on to infrastructure and then crime. And the reason why I start with healthcare and education is because the Louisiana Constitution makes it where the only two places where we have been able to cut costs whenever we've had a budget issue is healthcare and education. That is inside the Constitution. And we place many of cuts to these areas. We live in a community which we deal with Cancer Alley. We have other environmental issues. We have a high rate of cancer, and yet we are constantly cutting our healthcare. And so I would say we need to address those. The reason why I put childcare first is because children are our future. Through my plan, we will invest into early education as well as trade and higher education, using the money that we're saving currently for our state to re-put it and reconstitute it into our education. With healthcare, we need to, again, invest into that. We have the neurological center being built here in New Orleans, but we need to have other facilities and possibly have those facilities in Louisiana District 3 so that we can use those as launch pads of education and innovation in the healthcare sphere. As far as infrastructure, as far as infrastructure, yes, we have way too many potholes, which affect our affordability. Many employers don't want to have their businesses or their headquarters there because of how bad the streets are. And the crime, we need to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And so our next question, is about economic development and public investment. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer this question. What role should public investment play in driving economic development in District 3 and underserved communities statewide? There's this part 2. How do you evaluate whether incentives, tax credits, or infrastructure investments are producing real and equitable returns? And so we're going to begin with Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. I think that the state government has a place to play within our economy. It should not be picking winners and losers, but it should be asserting and making sure that people are being paid a living wage. It should make sure that it is getting out of the way with red tape and regulation, which stops some small business owners from starting their business, or sometimes move them into closing due to the red tape. And so making sure that people have a fair opportunity to thrive is the job of the state. It is the job of our government. As far as how do we determine if those dollars are being used properly whenever we give a tax break or whenever we give some other deferment, we have to look at how much money did we bring in before and how much money we bring in after we gave that tax break. Additionally, how many jobs did that tax break or that financial relief we gave to that business, how many jobs did that create? And so what we need to do is have, whenever we're giving tax breaks and tax cuts to these companies and these corporations, that we're requesting the ability to have an audit and a report back of how many jobs created and how much increase in taxable revenue that they are bringing, that are benefiting our community.
Thank you. And next, to answer that same question, Mr. Johnson.
Economic development is crucial throughout the district, and it is even more crucial in New Orleans East and the Ninth Ward and St. Bernard Parish and throughout the district, quite frankly. The only way we're going to be able to do major economic development projects is with a public-private relationship. As far as determining the effectiveness of whatever resources we put into those projects, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development has a system in place and has consistently, long-term, had a system in place to determine the cost-benefit ratio analysis that we have with the monies that we put into projects. But for a project like Bayou Phoenix, that project is going to need state funding in order to get off the ground. And the state should step up to the plate and put money into a project like that because it is in the state's best interest to do that. That's what we did for Jazzland. We would not have had Jazzland, Six Flags, if I would not have been able to get state money. I was chairman of the Committee on Revenue and Fiscal Affairs. I was a member of the State Bond Commission, and I was able to get $10 million in order to bring Jazzland to New Orleans East. Same thing is true with the Lake Forest Plaza Mall. The only way we're going to be able to get that mall back up and running is with public-private relationship and making sure that the
Thank
state
you.
is able to put money into that project. Mr. Senator, I will
Thank
get
you.
it done.
All right, and next, Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, thanks. Most of the major development in the city of New Orleans has utilized some public money. I think that's a really proven formula for getting things done. I think it's a proven formula for creating incentive for private money to come into the city, for private development to happen. It's something that we should continue. Obviously, I think that the tangible measures of success there would be pretty evident in a place like New Orleans East, where you have a lot of blight, or you have sites that are just vacant, just vacant land. So I think the building up of that land, the development of that land would be proof positive that the plan works, the formula works. We just need to deploy the funds, and we need to recruit businesses to come in and put worthwhile projects in play. I think another measure for that would be that small businesses that are currently open remain open. If we create a formula to bring in new business, but we're shutting down, the small business backbone of these communities, then we've not been effective. So we need to measure those two together to really be able to determine that we've been successful at this. So and last I would say about that is adding small business. Entrepreneurship is big, and folks finding a pathway to get out of jobs and into self-employment. And so not only existing small business, but the growth of small business, I think, would be really good tangible measures of the success of those sort of programs.
Thank you. That's Tom.
Thank you. And then Mr. Laga, the question is yours.
Yes, I would say in Louisiana, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a tax exemption problem. And I say that because at a state level, we'll give super big businesses tax exemptions at the cost of local governments, where we can invest in small businesses, where we could take those funds that we exempt those people out of. Like, I'll take, for example, Visa Corp. The state gave Visa $200 million to build a data center, and they never did build it. This was back in 2011. They never did build that data center. Well, we were out of the $200 million. We could have took that $200 million and invested it in the East. The New Orleans East has a significant amount of growth. We have the land there. I think if we invest the money right and put it in the right places, we can definitely see economic development. We could see job growth. And I'm all for that. And I firmly believe we just need, as a state, we have to want to do things. And right now, up at the state Senate, they don't want to do things here. So we need to make them do things here.
Thank you. And so our next question, we're going to talk about housing, land use, and growth. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer this question. What is your stance on housing tax credits, multifamily development, and preventing displacement as growth occurs across the district? And the question will go to Mr. Bartholomew first.
Yeah, I think we need to be really careful and measured when we approach that kind of development, multifamily. Some communities don't want to see multifamily in certain parts of the community. They want to see multifamily developments come up, or they want high input on what a multifamily development looks like in their community. So I think we need to be very careful about bringing community stakeholders to the table and having that discussion prior to approving those sort of developments. Now, that said, housing is an issue. We need housing. we need affordable housing. So there's a necessity there that we have to fill, and we need to make sure that we can actively find viable sites for affordable housing. And I think we need to be creative about what that looks like, how that's developed, and then also ensure that the folks that we bring to the table or that are able to get those opportunities to build that housing have a stake in the community and remaining in the community and aren't,
Thank
you know,
you.
I'll just close of flipping out of that property, which often poorly affects the renters.
Thank you. Mr. Laga, the question is yours.
As I would say on the multi-level use, I think we need to make sure as a state senate and the legislature, we need to make sure that we do tax assessments on income basis and not cost or sales basis, because what that happens, that increases the cost to the building owner of that multi-level use property. And it, in turn, he passed that cost on to his renters. So that's part of a problem that I see coming, but we need to make sure that we stay with an income base for our assessments. Another thing, our land use, east of the industrial canal, we have more land than anywhere else in this district that's ready to be built upon. We just have to make sure we make those right investments into community housing, what we grew up with. I think the big developments, certain places may want them, and I understand that, but I think we need to stay more with our historical community developments is what I'm more in favor of, to gear incentives toward to build back again in everywhere east of the industrial canal.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes? You're on mute.
You know, we went through COVID and everything. I still act like I don't know how to use Zoom. But what I'm going to say is that I believe that housing is fundamental to our nature as human beings. We need housing in order to be able to have a job successfully, to raise a family successfully, and to live our everyday lives. And so the state government has a vested interest and should take measures and steps in order to provide and make sure that housing is an attainable dream that people can have. Many people today would love to buy in New Orleans, especially in Louisiana Senate District 3, but they feel as if the economy is not set up in a place for which can provide for that. Through my plans, we will make sure that the economy is thriving and people are able to buy those homes, and insurance is at a rate that they can depend on and use. As far as multifamily housing, I believe that those housing and any construction that occurs in neighborhoods has to realize that it's coming into a neighborhood that already is established. And in that, it must have the neighborhood's agreement and also have the neighborhood's buy-in. That is done through clear communication with the neighborhood and those involved and those stakeholders. And most importantly, we must make sure that the new housing coming in does not displace and
Thank you. That's
gentrify.
time.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, the question is yours.
I'm not opposed to multifamily housing and tax incentive for that purpose. Just depends upon where it goes. If the community is in favor of it, residents are in favor of it, have bought into it, then it is something that could be promoted and looked at. But I think what is more important than that right now is specifically in New Orleans East, where we have more multifamily housing than our fair share. Let's take some time and energy and effort to revitalize what we have in that community. The Willows is a very typical example of what I'm talking about. A multifamily property that is in desperate need of rehabilitation. And there are several throughout the community that are in desperate need of rehabilitation. I think what needs to happen on the state level and on the city level, we need to do a better job of enforcing and enforcing these owners of these multifamily properties to maintain their properties, to upkeep them, to make sure that
Thank
property
you.
is
That's
safe
time.
to live in.
Thank you. And so let's shift a little bit to infrastructure, environment, and resilience. Each candidate will have 75 seconds to answer this question. What funding strategies should the state prioritize to address flooding, climate resilience, and aging infrastructure across District 3? And we'll begin with Mr. Laga.
Yes, I think one of the things we need to invest in, like I said in the beginning, just for our protection, is restoring our coast. Like I live in St. Bernard. I know what we've lost over my 50 years being here. And I think that goes to your resiliency. I think there's things we can do at a state level to improve the drainage. Actually, they have some groups with water management systems, like for the water that comes off of the interstate, that goes through the district. I think that's something that's important that would help flooding. We need retention ponds. We need to build that infrastructure. We need to kind of become more of a greener city. To look, we're a bowl. We need a place to put all that water. So I would say let's put some money into that kind of infrastructure, and repairing our pipes, repairing our pumps. We really need a lot of help, but I would say let's try to get more into that green avenue to where we could save some money in the process of modernizing our flood equipment.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, your response?
I was the chairman of the Committee on Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, which handled all of the capital outlay throughout the state. Get that, and served on the State Bond Commission. I think the state should step up to the plate and help us out to a greater extent, Sewage and Water Board, with the infrastructure problems and the mechanical problems with the equipment that we have at the Sewage and Water Board, in order to be able to move water out more quickly in the area. I do think that the governor should really move forward with this coastal erosion program. That program is temporarily on hold. I think he needs to move on that, unfreeze it, and deal with the issue. We've got billions of dollars that we can spend on coastal erosion. New Orleans is a coastal city. St. Bernard is a coastal parish, and coastal erosion is something that is very, very important to us. And the state has the major role to play in coastal erosion. As far as environmental matters, I think when you look at projects like the grain train that is being proposed for the Lower Ninth Ward and other kinds of projects that are going to have a negative negative environmental impact on the communities, I think the community, I think the residents should have a major say in determining whether or not those kinds of projects come into their community. The residents are there,
Thank
and I'm
you.
all
That's
in favor of
time.
economic development, but the residents come first.
Thank you. Mr. Bartholomew, the question is yours. And the remaining candidates, let me know if you need me to repeat the question, please.
Yeah, I think, this might be something we're all going to agree upon is coastal restoration. The only path forward for us as a city so close to we're under sea level and we're close to the Gulf is coastal restoration. It's what's protected us for centuries, and we're losing it. And if we don't address it immediately, we're at risk. What I find interesting about it is that folks on the other side of the aisle deny climate change and deny the effects that it's having on all of the world, really, but our coast. Yet we're a red state and we have red representation of the lower parishes. And so I would think that it's something that we can agree on and we can coalesce around and determine that we need to immediately fund projects that restore our coast and help protect Louisiana. That's something I would fight for at the Capitol. I think we can, again, build consensus around that, despite the challenge of folks that don't want to agree that it exists, that climate change exists. That's something that's going to take a strong voice to deal with in Baton Rouge, and that's something I would definitely address immediately.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes?
So to first start off, to answer your first part of the question, the funding mechanism should be directly from the state. We could do that with capital outlay as well as using some of the tax dollars that we collect regularly to address many of our concerns, as well as public and private partnerships that will be targeted at addressing our environmental concerns and our infrastructure concerns. We live in Louisiana. We live in New Orleans. We live in St. Bernard, which is right on the coast. Restoring the coastline is pivotal. By making sure we have more coastline, we can mitigate some of the impact of those hurricanes coming through to make sure that they're slowed down. But that is going to be a shield. To have a sword to this fight, we need to be proactive and make sure that we're addressing the causes of our environmental concerns and our infrastructure concerns, this being climate change. And we can address that by making sure that we are taking a hard eye at new developments that we have coming to our communities, such as the data center that's being looked at coming to the east. That data center and data centers that we've seen in other locations have had a direct impact on both the environment as well as the ecosystem, the energy that's consumed, the cost of the energy consumed by users and citizens around those areas, and additionally, even the amount of car accidents that occur in the local area around those. We have to take a strong look at the businesses that we bring in and make sure they benefit our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, candidates, we're down to the last question of the evening. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer this question. It's around ethics and collaboration. What does ethical leadership look like in practice? And how will you work with House members, local government, and community organizations to deliver results? And we'll start with Mr. Johnson.
As far as the ethics is concerned, I would work directly with my constituents, first of all, making sure that I have regular meetings, keeping my constituents informed of what's going on in the district, what's going on in my office. As far as the members of the legislature is concerned and the governor, there are ethics laws that come up from time to time. We have an ethics commission, an ethics board in the state that regulate what elected officials are able to do and not able to do and when they have to do it. I fully enforce and agree with that board and would enforce the laws to the fullest extent of the law, and making sure that we have an open book about what we do on a consistent basis in the offices, in the legislature, in both houses of the legislature. I think that is something that is very, very clear and something that is easy for members of the legislature to do on a consistent basis. Just follow the laws, and the laws are clear. And the Ethics Commission is the agency in the state that has the responsibility of enforcing these laws.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. I think when it comes to ethics, it's important to look at past. In my decade of legal practice, I haven't had any ethics concerns come about. And I want to continue that practice as your senator by making sure that I live up to what my campaign promise is: accountability, access, and affordability. Accountability being that first thing stated, because being accountable to my constituents will be very important. Making sure that open door policy, those continuous meetings with stakeholders, so that they can hold accountable any concerns that they may see will be pivotal. Additionally, as I work across the aisle with the Republican supermajority, I will be taking a approach of making sure that I see the humanity in the individual across from me as we try to work together on our mutual interests, but also knowing that I will be a dogged fighter against any bad actors on the other side trying to hurt Louisiana, New Orleans, and most importantly, Louisiana Senate District 3, but doing it ethically, making sure that at all times that we are not violating any law and we're upholding and staying true to the sunshine laws that we have here in Louisiana.
Thank you. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, I think ethical leadership just simply means doing our job. You know, our job is to speak on behalf and for the people, for the community that we serve. I think if you're doing that and you're focused on delivering for your community, that's a path toward doing your job correctly. and staying out of ethics issues. I think an ethical leader tries to bring about resources for the community, tries to garner what it is the community wants, and then go to Baton Rouge and fight for it and deliver for them. I think that's kind of simply put. Working in this government with a Republican supermajority is going to, provide some challenges that we'll have to work through. I don't see an issue with going to Baton Rouge and trying to develop relationships and trying to explain to my fellow senators that this is what my community needs. I know your community has needs, and so does mine. Let's work together that our constituency can benefit from our presence here at the state capitol. And if I can't achieve that, then I don't want the job. So my job would be to work across the aisle, to work with even the Republican administration there, and deliver for my community.
Thank you. And Mr. Laga.
Yes, I would say on the first part of your question, I would hold regular town hall meetings to be transparent. I would post online all the bills that I would be authoring and supporting. And another thing that I would like to do on the transparency part to be ethical would be to post a line item budget instead of our aggregate budget like they post now. So people could actually see this amount of dollars went to XYZ, and go down a line item. On ethics, so I was in Baton Rouge when ethics came around. So I believe in ethics, and I think that it's really easy to follow the law as long as you do the right thing. When you do the right thing, you don't have to worry about being in ethics violations. The one thing is that we really need to probably tighten some ethics laws, because there are some loopholes that in ethics that people do get around. So I would say, tighten those loopholes. And, my grandmother always used to say sunlight's the best disinfectant, so our sunshine laws, if we tighten them up, we'll get all the bad actors out. So that's what my take would be.
Well, thank you. Well, candidates, we have come to the end of the forum. I'd like to thank each of you for your participation tonight, and thank the voters east of the Industrial Canal for having me as the moderator. And so with that, I think we're about to log off unless there's anything else. Dawn?
I just wanted to thank all of the candidates for taking the time to come on this forum, because we think it's very important that that the voters see who you are, listen to what you have to say, because you will be representing us when you get to Baton Rouge. And there are a lot of issues that we know of that's going on now. And so we need to know that you have our backs and that you will vote and, garner, projects that will benefit each community, the St. Bernard Project in New Orleans East. So again, I want to thank you all and have a great night and good luck in the race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Really
guys. See
appreciate
y'all
it
later.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all. I gotta disconnect the stream. See y'all later.
Okay.